What's up, everybody? This is Yuda, and I have a very interesting video that I would like for you guys to see. I'm going to do some pausing in order to get around the copyright checks or issues, but I really believe you need to see this. I remember doing a video last year. I think it was last year, around the time I did the video about the April the 8th solar eclipse. X marks the spot. Well, I remember saying that I felt something huge coming. And I'm not the kind of person that try to set dates or claim to be prophetic, but I see things sometimes in my spirit, and I don't always understand them. I don't see dates so in particular as to say that anything of this magnitude will happen on such and such a date, but I knew something big was coming, and I think this is just the beginning. So I want you guys to really pay close attention to what's going on.
There's something strange about Hurricane Milton. You guys know my buddy Chad Riley, right? Well, he just sent me a text, and I'm going to read it to you. I'll put it on the screen right now. So he just sent me this text saying, I have two sources that are boots on the ground, and both work for power companies. Both are telling me higher-ups are in panic mode and are downplaying Hurricane Milton. It's going to be above a Category 5 when it...
It's going to be above a Category 5. You know why they're saying that? Because in the whole history of hurricanes, they have never had to categorize anything past 5. And 5 was always extremely rare. So now they have no way to determine what category to put this hurricane in. That's saying a lot. This is huge. They have no way of knowing, but now they call it a Category 5 plus. Pay attention.
It hits. They don't have a register for higher than that, so they're telling people Cat 5 plus.
It's just an incredible hurricane.
Now I want you to watch this guy. Watch his emotions.
It has dropped. It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours.
You know why this guy is choked up and in tears? He has family, friends, people he loves that he cannot tell them what he knows. But if you watch him, you know he knows more than what he's allowed to say. This is censorship at its best.
I apologize. This is just horrific. Maximum sustained winds are 160 miles per hour, and it is just gaining strength in the Gulf of Mexico, where you can imagine the winds. I mean, the seas are just so incredibly hot.
All these hurricanes this year, all the destruction, the 10 to 15 foot waves that are about to hit Tampa Bay. Well, it reminds me of a Bible verse.
Now, Tampa Bay. Did you know that there's a Air Force base in Tampa Bay? And the path that this hurricane has taken, it seems to be directly aimed at this base. And I'm not saying that it's singling out the base. I believe most, if not all of Florida is about to be wiped out. I mean, really, think about it. This is the biggest hurricane in the history of this planet. And if you watch the path of it and realize the first one, Helene, I believe it was called, look at the damage it did. And it wasn't near the strength of this one. And look at the damage it brought. I don't see Florida surviving this. I believe 80 to 90% of Florida is going underwater.
It's Luke 21:25, and it says, quote, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and the tossing of the sea." Are we seeing the fulfillment of prophecy right before our very eyes? You turn on the news, what do you see? Catastrophic hurricanes, solar eclipses, and global turmoil.
Now I want y'all to realize something. Believe it or not, these storms, these hurricanes, they're not natural. They are being manipulated by the powers that be. And again, I'm trying to be careful not to get any kind of strikes from YouTube or have this taken down. So I'm going to try really hard to share with you what I see without getting struck down by YouTube. But the ability and the technology to manipulate the weather is not new. If you guys can remember back to Hurricane Katrina, I don't know how many of you know this, but shortly after that hurricane, the U.S. blamed Russia because Russia also has the ability and the technology to manipulate weather. But I don't believe they really believed it was Russia, because I believe that they caused this Katrina incident themselves. And blaming Russia was a distraction to get your attention off of maybe suspecting them.
It's all there in Luke 21:25, where Jesus spoke of the signs in the sun, moon, and stars. And on the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. These aren't just poetic metaphors Jesus was using. No, they're real. They're tangible. Let's break it down. Let's start with Hurricane Milton. There's talk of it being the biggest hurricane on record.
I want y'all to take a look at something. Just a second. Can y'all see this image? I took a screenshot. This image of this hurricane has an eye, an ear, a nose, and a mouth. And I have a clearer picture, I'm not able to put it up right now, that shows teeth. It's an ugly face. I told my wife right after Hurricane Helene that there was something much bigger coming. I didn't know anything about Hurricane Milton. And the very next day, we started hearing about Milton developing. And it just exploded overnight. But look at that face. That is a face. That is a very evil face.
Hurricane on record in the history of mankind. I don't know how accurate that is. However, it is a Category 5 at the moment, and they are forecasting a storm surge that could reach up to 15 feet along the Gulf Coast, especially around Tampa Bay. This isn't just your average Cat 5 hurricane. We're talking about a storm surge so powerful that it could swallow whole neighborhoods in one of America's largest cities.
Swallow whole neighborhoods and one of America's largest cities. Florida is going down.
More than 3 million people who live in the Tampa Bay area. If the storm surge hits like they're forecasting, the ocean will push farther inland than ever before. causing catastrophic flooding. Remember, Jesus said the sea and the waves roaring. Could this be it? Or do you think it's going to be something similar, but on a global scale? But one thing's for sure. Nature's fury is about to be unleashed on a scale that we can hardly comprehend.
It is really starting to go up on those history charts now. Milton is the 5th strongest storm by pressure on record in the Atlantic. The record for that is about 20 years ago with Hurricane.
Now they're saying that there's records that match in the past years. See, that's a lie. That's a lie. There has never been a category that could not fit between category 1 to category 5. This is the reason for category 5 plus. This is bigger than anything that's ever happened in the history of this planet. So you pay close attention to these words and search your history.
Hurricane Wilma back in 2005 with a low pressure of 882 millibars. We'll see if it gets any lower than it is right now, but either way, Milton is already in the record books at a top 5 strong hurricane by pressure, and the wind speed, it is the 6th strongest in terms of estimated wind speed as well. Let's show you the path. This is the forecast path here, category 5 strength, going across the Gulf of Mexico. Very unusual path.
Do y'all see how much of Florida is left on this peninsula, this part, and this thin strip of land? That's all. So how can either side of this path escape?
For a hurricane to take, but that's the way the winds are blowing this time around. As we get a little bit closer to Florida here, this would be Wednesday evening, still expected to be a category 4 hurricane with winds at 145 miles per hour. This would be Thursday morning, and then it crosses right over the Florida peninsula. Now remember, when we show you the forecast cone, this is not trying to communicate the size of the storm. All it's trying to do is show you that the storm center could pass in the middle, it could pass over here, it could pass as far south as this. It could also pass as far north as this part of Florida. So anywhere along the west coast here of Florida needs to be on very high alert for a possible direct hit of the storm. As of now, we still don't know if it'll hit here, or there.
He's attempting to play it down. This is one of the biggest weather events in history.
Those are in the realm of uncertainty. And again, it's expected to stay a hurricane the entire way across the Florida peninsula, and then from there go due east across the Atlantic Ocean.
This is not the end, y'all. This is coming in sequence. Florida is not going to be the only place that get hit like this. I believe eventually all the coastlines, and even as far back to the east, not east, but far back as the north of the United States, eventually will experience some kind of catastrophic event. It's coming.
Ocean. I know that's a little unusual. It will stay south here in the Carolinas. We are not expecting it to have major impacts or any impacts on us here in the Piedmont of North Carolina. And you say, well, why is that? I might not have seen a storm take a path quite like that before. You're not wrong. It's unusual. I was only able to find a couple in the record books that have taken a path like this.
Consider the symbolism of the seas rising. This isn't just about water levels, but the turmoil it creates. We see panic, evacuations, and the inability of infrastructure to cope. This kind of chaos brings to mind the idea of perplexity among nations.
Right now, Florida is trying to evacuate, and everybody is on Highway 75 trying to get out of Florida. They're running out of gas, traffic jammed up for miles. There are people stranded on the side of the highway because they've run out of gas. And the traffic itself is backed up, bumper to bumper, and it stretches for miles. And basically, they're barely even crawling. And they are saying, oh, they got time. We still have a day or so before the storm hits. Who says?
as world leaders struggle to address not only natural disasters, but an increasing number of overlapping crises, from wars to economic instability. In addition to the devastation Milton brings, we must consider how the storm's intensity grew almost exponentially in such a short span. The speed of change reminds us of the times Jesus warned would come suddenly and without much warning, like a thief in the night. It's not just about the storm, but about the pattern we're seeing worldwide. A convergence of unsettling events that are shaking people out of their complacency. Many might argue that this is simply a product of a changing climate. We shouldn't ignore the spiritual dimension. The weather patterns we're witnessing could very well be part of a larger narrative that goes beyond meteorology. The rapid escalation of Hurricane Milton, the destruction it's poised to bring, and the fear it's inciting all feel like birth pangs, events that hint at something more profound unfolding. As the world becomes increasingly unpredictable, the importance of being grounded in faith grows.
Filling sandbags for what is predicted to be a monster storm. Here in the Tampa area, they are bracing for a gut punch only days away now from Mother Nature in the form of Hurricane Milton. Overnight, it strengthened to a Category 5 hurricane. Local Tampa resident Milton Cobb and his wife haven't decided if they're going to get out of Dodge just yet.
We discussed leaving, but we don't really want to, so we'll make our mind up in the next day or so.
But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has ordered mandatory evacuations for senior centers and healthcare facilities in Milton's path. And he has suspended tolls on most of the state's bridges and highways to make it easier for people to leave.
You should assume that there's going to be some form of evacuations that are going to be issued by your local county officials.
More than 50 counties and millions of people in Florida are now under state of emergency orders. The storm is expected to weaken somewhat, but will still be a major Category 3 hurricane by the time it makes landfall in Florida, late Wednesday night or early Thursday morning. Tampa's airport will stop operations tomorrow morning.
At 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, we will be closed to all passengers so that our team can begin the process of securing our airport facilities, which takes up to 24 hours. There will be no flight operations arriving or departing after 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
So there you go. You can't fly out. You really can't drive out. And it's not smart to take any boats or yachts out into the ocean. So what will they do? I have said many times in many of my lessons, get out. I really couldn't say exactly what was going to happen, but I had this deep feeling that whatever it was that was going to happen was going to be the worst that anybody could imagine. And look at where we are right now. Anybody that wants to get out really should be thinking about seriously moving out right now. And I'm not talking about from one side of the country to the other. You need to get out of that country. This is not the totality of this event. This is the beginning. It's going to get a whole lot worse for every part of the U.S.
Meantime, the cleanup from Helene continues north to the Carolinas, where the White House spokesperson tried to debunk social media narratives that the federal disaster relief efforts have failed miserably.
When I warned the people in my lessons to get out, I was met with a lot of negative resistance, a lot of derogatory comments. You know, and why? When I'm just trying to help you see. Even though I couldn't show you what I saw or felt, I still try to honor my responsibility to alarm you that you are sitting on a time bomb.
President Biden and Vice President Harris continue to use every tool available to help communities devastated by Hurricane Helene. Over the weekend, President Biden ordered another 500 active duty troops to move into western North Carolina, in addition to the 1,000 troops the president previously ordered to deploy to the state. This is on top of the more than 6,100 National Guardsmen and over 7,000 federal personnel, all working together with.
Let me just say this right quick. When Helene hit North Carolina, mainly Asheville and other surrounding areas, did y'all know that almost every sundown city was wiped out? Do y'all know what a sundown city is? I do. I grew up in East Texas, and I had to travel through some of these cities that had big signs on the side of the road warning people of our color not to be caught in that area after sundown. This is a reality. I saw it with my own eyes, and they're still there to this day, mainly down around Tyler, Texas, and other small cities coming through from Tyler going toward Dallas. I saw this with my own eyes.
With their state and local counterparts to help people begin their road to rebuilding.
At last count, 227 people are dead from Helene. Scores of others are still missing. Electricity is still out in many areas, and things won't be getting better, especially now with Milton bearing down. Pinellas County, Florida resident Annette says she has a really bad feeling about this one.
We've been through a few storms, and you always worry, but this one, there's something about this one that I'm feeling very uneasy about.
Look at this image. Y'all see this face? Look at that. What is that sign? That's an evil entity that's in this storm. And it's coming for the United States. Wake up, people. Things are not going to get better. Things are going to get a hell of a lot worse. And I'm crying out to each and every one of you, if you can go, go. Shalom.